Was President Trump and his administration attacked with artificial intelligence? If so, how? Join me for a 6th episode of the AI Organization. Let's begin. Welcome to the AI Organization. I am Cyrus, your host. We begin with a very sophisticated show and very sophisticated concepts. How was Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, attacked with AI, use of artificial intelligence? How was his administration attacked? How did it impact the CIA, the FBI, DOJ, the media, all of humanity? And how were conservatives attacked, but also how were the liberals attacked as well? Who are the victims? We dig deep into this episode. First of all, if you recall, first episode, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and also the books AI, Trump, China, and the War Planetary Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Danger to Humanity touched on very deep concepts of the interplay of internet ecosystem, your smartphones, IoT devices, and your neural networks. And of course, the bias that comes in from Google's ecosystem and all the different social media that we use. This bias comes in generally from two different methods that most people can agree with. One is, of course, AI coding and algorithms that are inputted strategically on purpose or subconsciously or unconsciously by people who have a certain viewpoint, whether it's left, right, center, or somewhere out there. So that impacts things. But another element, which is really, really huge, is the actual bias that's put in by the influx and different matrix of articles, posts, videos, and all different social media that go into Google's ecosystem, Twitter, Facebook, and everything else that span and expand to the entire media that go to TV, but also come down and hit these beautiful smartphones. These smartphones, as I mentioned in the first episode and touched on in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and 5th episode, there's patents in these. There's patents related to Google. They actually interplay with your brain chemistry, your thoughts, your neural networks. And this is a Western concept. The Chinese have the concept of qi, meridian lines, and so on. They actually touch your skin receptors. You know, there are haptic suits people use for virtual reality. This haptic suit can actually have you connect virtual reality, augmented reality, alternate reality, and feel and sense things that actually normally hit your body, but your brain doesn't tell you that you're sensing them. So these phones, as I explained in the first episode, the moment you touch it, the moment you open it and turn it on, it hits your neural networks into your brain and connects and makes a full cycle with your body. So it's not just the content that it's programming you or shifting your thoughts based on what you read, what you see, which happens with TV and so on, or someone talking to you, or it's things that you see and thoughts you have, the dreams you have. No, this smartphone is really a weapon. And whatever bias goes into it, or program bias, can exponentially increase the effects of the end goal. So if you guys recall, in 2003, 2002, right before we went into war with Iraq, we had different media outlets, conservative, left, and they were playing music of war, Gladiator, Last of the Mohicans, Braveheart, and go get the evil Iraqis. And of course, Saddam Hussein was very, very evil. Killed his own people and the Kurds and so on. and he starts fights with Iran, and he was, endangering the Middle East, but he wasn't proven to have these weapons that they thought he would, but he could have had it maybe later on. The main issue was Israel. He was paying $25,000 a head, and it was very effective because people were suiciding themselves, and a lot of Israelis were being killed. So you have that interplay between the corporations that wanted some money out of gas. You had the people in security who wanted to defend Israel and also wanted to make sure to keep this guy in check. But the method going in the way it did wasn't effective. It killed a lot of American lives, destroyed the economy in America, and it killed over 1 million Iraqis. But who were the main forerunners? So the media was the main weapon that was used. They all promoted it. They were psychologically trained and affected by the think tanks behind them. The people that went through the White House, the agencies, the kind of CIA, FBI, and those people themselves were victims too, because they were social engineered. So this whole matrix of everything going back and forth, what you watch, the TV, the whole bit, and we went to war. But now we have the age of the internet that connects to smartphones, and we have 5G coming. So what I'm trying to express here, that now that the left is maybe in some regards, okay, some people may think some of the people on the left are a bit crazed, and the way they act is exponentially more irrational than they've ever been. Because in the past, usually the left were the people of ration and calmness. But if you look at a lot of the media and a lot of the people who are promoting these things, and they get really emotionally affected, it's these smartphones. The content comes in. If it's true, if it's not, if it's in the middle, it's actually feeding into their brain chemistry and their emotions and neural networks. So even if they dislike President Trump, if they dislike the conservatives, this smartphone has exponentially increased their emotional reactions to these situations. Same thing with the right, but more so with the people on the left, because they're the ones who are thinking they're losing so many different of their rights, and they're being affected by so many different things. Now, if you look at it, where is this information coming from? This whole huge attack on President Trump. So previously we had Clinton. Conservatives didn't like him, but it wasn't a massive attack, right? Then we had President Bush. Left didn't like him at all. I thought he wasn't very bright. So, but he didn't have that massive attack on him that was crazed, right? So it's the left and the right, they go through cycles of hating each other. But this cycle, and we had the Obama years, right? And it was getting into smartphones and so on and so on. But since President Trump came into power, the power shifted back to the conservatives. And for people to have so much anger, well, these smartphones, the interplay within Google search engine, your social media, IoT devices, and how it connects and increase your emotions and your neural network connectivity is having this huge effect on the people on the left, but also the right as well. It's creating division. This smartphone exponentially has increased hatred between left and right and middle. It has torn families apart. So it's not just the content in here. It's Google, it's Twitter, Facebook, this whole social media, but it's these smartphones. So think back in history. How did all these wars happen? You had someone in one village would say all these slanderous things about someone else, and everyone would believe, and they go to war and they kill everybody, rape everybody, right? Or they get raped back. And they realize, oh no, it was somebody lied. But they get all emotionally affected, right? And they do these big things. So, and as I mentioned, the Iraq War and so on. But now we're reaching a dangerous territory. So China endangers the whole world. And a lot of people don't like President Trump. But they don't understand that what he's trying to do at the moment is safeguard not only the US, but the free world against China's rise, which is an Orwellian artificial intelligence state. So if this happened before we reached 5G, and we had all this mayhem and chaos, and all these media reporters who are getting influx of information, they're being programmed. A lot of them not that bright. Some of them are really bright. Usually I pick the really beautiful ones and they groom them before they get to experience things and get the wisdom. And that grooming comes from their producers, that comes from their think tanks, that they're not that bright either. And that grooming comes from intelligence agencies and so on. There is this whole array of conflicts and sides, right, left, center, over there, over here. And it's always been fine and dandy, right? We have all these issues and conflicts, but if everyone can just step back for a minute and really hold their emotions and their hatred and not look at an issue as left or right, but look at it as a human being and see, wow, we're reaching a digital age that has artificial intelligence. It can reach artificial general intelligence. Google, all these big techs have huge monopolies and power because these search engines that they have, where people search, and these huge social media outlets that affect what you see, what you hear, how it interplays with your smartphones, it is brainwashing people to a degree never been done in human history. And I call this biodigital social programming. If you listen to our previous episodes, and if you think back to the book, if you had the chance to read the books, biodigital social programming. Bio means your biology, blood cells. Digital means your neural networks, your spirit, if your spirit or soul, if you believe in a religion, or your consciousness, if you're agnostic, or you're a normal scientist who doesn't believe what you don't see. So these elements are being affected biodigitally, and socially you have your social network, your social media, and your emotions, and programming. Programming is programming. Every human being has a really powerful brain, a huge capacity, but most of it is locked up. And for good reason, because if we had jealousy and all these little conflicts and emotions, imagine if you tapped in, you achieve artificial general intelligence, what you could do, right? Now, you'd have to really research this, and you would know what I'm talking about. But I just want to share with everyone that the CIA, the FBI, the Secret Service, the police, the government, people, the human beings inside them, and our media, they're not any worse than the people who are not there who are complaining at these people. They're just in these positions, so they're victims because they get so much pressure from all this matrix of things that makes them falter or corrupt some of them. Right? And they have their own bias. So throughout history, we always blame, oh, it's that tycoon over there, it's the king. Well, some people, you have really evil people, right? But we're always pointing fingers at these big corporations. It never ends, or big things, right? Or that person in power. But it's power that corrupts, right? So in the US, we have the checks and balances, we have the Constitution. But with this digital age, and all these people going after money or their fame or different things, it's not working out too well. So just think about it. If President Trump could be attacked in such a way that was so sophisticated, that's unseen, beyond the level that is of the norm, what can happen to the left as well? And the middle, what can happen with 5G, which is 10, 20, 100 times faster? Can people's brains take that? What happens when robots come in? Drones and all these big companies. So I created this channel and I created the AI organization because I foresaw a lot of things as I did 20 years ago what the world stage will be like today. It's exactly how I foresaw it, and I called it everything. So I didn't come out. I made a huge mistake. Okay, now I'm coming out and I have a really, really sophisticated analysis that I really hope people can take into deep consideration. It comes with over 1,000 AI companies, biometric companies, and robotics companies that I've researched, investigated, and I'm really on everybody's side. I'm not against the left or the right. do have my own principles, but I would like support. Our company would like support. We'd like these messages to be shared, and for us to be actually be cited as well, and to be given a platform. As you know, we put a huge lawsuit out there, and we didn't get the media to pick it up. Why? Is it because their neural networks are digitally controlled? Or is it because they're really corrupt people? Or they've been corrupted? So do they care about the human race? Do they care about this whole picture? Can they grasp this? Do they have the sophistication to grasp the interplay between AI, 5G, robotics, all these companies, China, the geopolitics of the world, what the Trump administration is doing, what they had to endure to safeguard the world against China, and these little proxies were like Iran that it causes trouble whenever China tells them to bark. So the Iranian people are victims too, and the regime, they've done some bad things, but they're being played and they're victims of the Chinese government. They have to realize that. So this episode is a bit sophisticated and it's really hard to believe, but if you think about it, you go research these patents, you go read my books, and you look at the big picture, you'll see that the left are victims, conservatives are victims, the media are victims, CIA is a victim, FBI is a victim, Secret Service is a victim, our government people are victims, your families are victims. The whole human race has become a victim of this interplay that's gone on for thousands of years, and it's been exponentially increased, and we've entered a realm of chaos with this Google and social media interface and these big tycoons with the coming age of 5G and the interplay with these smartphones. So yes, what happened? There was bias, there was attacks, but it exponentially got increased with these smartphones. People's neural networks got affected, their brain chemistry got changed because, not just because of Trump, because it automatically does that. When you're sleeping, the smartphone is actually affecting your brain chemistry. And the information that you take in is reprogramming your brain. So if you look at it in the past, you say, oh, the person's a witch, get him, burn him at the stake. Everyone goes, oh, let's burn him at the stake. They got easily programmed with words, right? So if you say, oh, Trump did this and he did it, everyone's going to believe it. If you say Trump did that and he didn't do it, everyone's going to believe it. Because these smartphones exponentially increase the effects. You'll say, why isn't the conservatives supporting him and it's just the left that are going, or some of the left that are going crazy? Well, what I'm trying to say is it increases your hate, it increases your reaction. Does it program people? Yes, it can completely alter someone on the left or the right to change their positions. But most people have stronger neural networks. What is happening is mostly of manipulation and reprogramming at a narrow level. And the programming may not last all the time, for a long period of time. So we haven't reached 5G yet. And when you reach 5G, this can happen in so many different ways, and it can hurt all the people. So I hope, even President Trump, watches this. I hope he reaches out, because I have very sophisticated ideas and analysis that I've never disclosed, and I'm not going to disclose because they're of national security concerns that relate to China and different corporations that could allow China to achieve artificial general superintelligence within the next 2 or 3 years. And I don't want to exactly explain how they work because they would endanger many different things. So this episode was just really about the interplay between the algorithms, the bias, and mainly how not only the TV and what you hear in the music and the programming you normally get, but these smartphones, how they exponentially increase and alter your brain chemistry. On the left, okay, usually you don't like conservatives, and it may sound like a conservative here, and maybe sound like I'm criticizing you. You're welcome to criticize me back. You're welcome to slander me. What I'm trying to explain to you is this could happen to you as well in different ways in the future. So you need to take a step back and look at the big picture. You hate Trump for some things, and some may be right, some may be wrong, but you have to look at the big picture. The whole world is in danger via China. And you need to look at the interplay of this, because you shouldn't be against the human race, okay? We're all in danger, and the Trump administration has not disclosed this. All President Trump did was, after 2 weeks of me publishing the first book and saying, China threatens the world, he said the same thing about 2 weeks later because CIA and different elements passed on the message to the White House. And then he turned over to a prime minister of and said, you do robotics, right? And I had this book. And this book was very, very, it was written in a very, very sophisticated way that's coded. So most people who hate conservatives would not even look at this, especially because they see Trump riding a horse, and they see the robot, and they see Karl Marx. And this whole cover has thousands of intermeanings and so sophisticated. And the book, it's only 170 pages and it has almost 80 pictures. It's compressed from a 10,000 page report, and it's coded with so much sophisticated language that you'd have to have so many algorithms try to find what it actually means. And it's very hard. Some other things, of course, is very plain English, but this is coded language for the intelligence community, and I did this for a very specific reason, to get the White House's attention. So, and that was done. And then the second book, Artificial Intelligence, Danger to Humanity, this is neutral to everybody. And this book doesn't have much to do with President Trump. It's just one page about him. But the cover has very deep inner meanings. Very, very deep. And it was done for strategic purposes, because this gentleman, President Trump, and his administration was so busy getting incoming from this whole impeachment thing, trying to impeach him for a small matter, well, the whole world is at stake. And there is defense issues that we have to look at in a very big way. So I truly want to ask the media and these think tanks that, if you haven't done, like me, over 10,000 hours of research, okay, and if you haven't researched over 1,000 AI companies, and this is not your profession, you shouldn't be attacking the administration the way you are. And this is a very sophisticated matter. You're endangering the world, in fact. And it's not something even these tech tycoons completely understand. Look at Elon Musk. He's got his business in China. 1.2 billion he's taking from the Chinese government. He's actually endangering the world. He doesn't understand what he has in Tesla that he's giving them. So I'm not going to release what that is, but if he was smart enough, he would never risk his business for a murderous regime in China. So as smart as people think he is and wise, he builds these spacecrafts and he builds these nice, beautiful cars, he's missing something up there. So he's just excited, but he's not looking at the bigger picture. So if that guy is so smart and he's missing it, just think about it. We all need to take a step back. And these media people, if they don't change, everybody needs to be sued. All these media, the reporters, the press, their production managers, because they're endangering the world. And the think tanks behind them. It's the same think tanks that have been ruining things for the past 20 years, and they get government funding. For the past 20 years, they're getting government funding. Why are people who are destroying the world and affecting their families, that may not have the best viewpoints on things, why are they getting all this funding? Why are they calling the shots? Sure, they like their positions, but this has to do with the safety of the entire planet, of all our people. If you really think about this, if you look into my second or third book, Artificial Intelligence, Danger to Humanity, anyone with half a brain, after they read this book, they'll realize what situation we have and how this whole system can turn against us, including the smart people in Microsoft, like Bill Gates and even the Amazon guys. I'm not against any of these tycoons, okay? Because if it's not them, it's someone else that gets in a position. Power corrupts. These neural networks that people have, their emotions that they have throughout history, people get corrupted. whoever has the power, they get influenced. They get so much pressure. So we really can't blame them. But as a whole human race, we need to really come together. So I'm hoping my message gets to the right person and the right people come to help. So I'm going to end this episode. It's a little bit long. And again, remind everybody that we're all one people. We may hate each other and get emotional, but if you look at how we were when we were 4, 3, 2, 5 years old, these little rosy cheeks, little kids, we were good people. We were good little kids. We just wanted to be good, right? And then in this life, as we grow up and all these things that we see, it corrupts us. We need to return to our original self. And technology isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing, right? But our ethics must be ahead of our technology. And the people who are making these decisions, they're not the most wisest, smartest people at these ahead of these tech companies or these tech regulators. They're not the wisest people, okay? If the person's not putting 16, 18 hours a day and is not focused on these things and it impacts the whole world, that person shouldn't be there. And if they're not smart enough and they haven't done 10, 20 years of research and they don't have the grasp of these things, they shouldn't be there. And if they get affected by these big tech tycoons or these corporations, our generals get affected. These are wonderful people, right? They defend our country, but they get social engineered too. If they were as smart as Elon, they would be building this stuff. So they don't understand these things, right? So they see great spaceship, great cars, he's doing good work, he helps the military, let's support him. But they don't understand the effects of it later on. So even generals get social engineered. Everybody gets social engineered. So me, I'm not any smarter than anyone else. All I did is I look at things from the outside. I wasn't in it, so I didn't get emotionally affected by getting twisted and getting affected, influenced by money or fame or having a kingship to one party or one person or one entity. So my kingship here is I have an altruistic goal, which is really kind of a big goal, but I'm a very small person in terms of one of 7 billion people, right? I'm not any more important. I'm not any more smarter, but I have this whole research and database and investigation that went through, and I came to some really sophisticated conclusions. You can research it and you'll see. So I really hope more people that care about the human race, care about your family, and you don't have maybe an emotion or a desire to make all these billions and millions and to be looked upon as you're some great person. I hope people like this come to the forefront more, so we can do things the proper way. 7 billion people are a lot of people. We're bringing 5G and a lot of things. I'm going to have more episodes. I'm going to explain this more in detail. So I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode. I also want to thank the people on the left. If I insulted you, I don't mean it. So if you look at the conservatives had the issue 10 years ago, it's a cycle. People are people. They get affected in different ways in different cycles. So we have to look at the big picture. Okay, and conservatives as well. I'm sorry if I offended you. I don't mean to offend anybody, but I just would like people to really step back and really think about this whole global picture, about the geopolitics of this interplay of U.S., China, Iran, Russia, about the interplay of how all these corporations have so much power, but the tycoons that control them, they may not all be there all the time. And they may not be in power later on. So the system may have effects that are very, very hard to control. And now President Trump is in power and he's putting some initiatives, right? So he may let some things slide, but later in the future, it may affect the whole world if he's lax on this technology, right? So he needs to make really good decisions, and largely he has. But there's some things that I'm not going to disclose unless I speak to him directly, or he gives an approval to some top generals. Elon Musk and some other people are endangering all the people of the world because of collaboration with China and some of the things they're passing on. So, they're endangering the CIA, they're endangering the FBI, they're endangering the Secret Service, they're endangering the White House, they're endangering our military. These generals who are so happy with these entrepreneurs and these tech tycoons that are creating all these things, but they need to really step back and think, well, if they're talking all these supernatural things with AI, and I don't believe in, I just think AI is just artificial narrow intelligence, well, maybe there's something to it. I'll get deep into this into our next episode 7. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining this episode. And I apologize if I offended anybody, but I think this is a very serious topic, especially this interplay with these smartphones and when 5G comes. And we need to all step back and just try to create tranquility and some peace and harmony. It's enough of this cycle of something coming into existence, then having a period of stability, and then degenerating, and then destruction, and all these fights that we have, even with our relationships, right? So if we can just create harmony, it'd be very, very good for all of us, the left, the right, all people. So again, thank you for joining this episode. Until next time, this is Cyrus Parsa. And one last thing, if you find any of the information fruitful, if you find our cause fruitful, we would need support in funding. Please not only subscribe to our channel, you can fund us through PayPal, GoFundMe account. You can write us a check. You can come on board if you have some special skills. So don't feel afraid to support us. Anything can do, small or big. And we have an altruistic goal, and it would be nice to have some support back in any way possible. So again, thank you. Until next time, Cyrus Parsa. I'm signing up.